I can't believe we're already in July and that we are done half of the year. Honestly, it still feels like 2025 just started, but I've completed my first half of the weekly vertical for the Traveler's Notebook insert. And today I'm going to do a flip through of the first 6 months. And then I'm going to switch over to the second half of the year. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then I invite you to settle in, grab yourself a drink, a snack, and something to keep you company and help you feeling cozy while we hang out and chat. Today I have a peppermint and ginger and fennel tea. And my snack, I've already eaten half of it, but picture a white chocolate and raspberry sourdough scone. It was very good. And then this is a chocolate chip cookie. So we took an extra long walk today because it is a statutory holiday in Canada. And we ended up treating ourselves to a cookie and a scone, and then we split the two. So my memory keeper is the Traveler's Notebook Weekly Vertical. And I have it in my Traveler's Notebook. This is the cover that I got on my Japan trip last year. I got it customized in Kirishiki at the Superior Labor. I love this cover so much. I've got two charms here. This one is a Traveler's Factory brass charm. And this is an NRT airport pin that you can get customized to become a little charm. Or a magnet or a pin. On the side here, I have another brass charm. This is a wabi sabi charm from Baumkuchen. And then I have here a little jade necklace charm from my childhood. And I still don't have anything on the string down here, which is fine because when I do come across something that I would love to preserve and save, then I know I have a spot for it. Just gonna move this aside for now. So on the inside, I have one of these secretarial pockets, and I've just got a bunch of stickers in here. And I have some more stickers on the inside here, and then I have some sticky notes. These are from Hobonichi from last year's Paddington Bear release. Here is volume 1, so January to the end of June for my memory keeper. This insert I was using as my long form journaling. It's almost finished. I have about 3 pages left before I'm finished this insert, but because I've been doing the artist's way with Leanne, I've been doing my morning pages in this other TN using this insert here. So once I started doing my morning pages in here, I honestly kind of stopped doing journaling in here. So at some point I will return to this to finish off this insert. This is a cover that I got from the Tokyo Station Traveler's Factory. I really love this cover. I love looking at it. I love the paper in it, so I've really enjoyed using this, and I think when I'm finished my morning pages in the current insert, I might move into another Traveler's Notebook insert because I am missing that MD paper. The last insert I have in here is my sticker release paper. I use this all the time. I'm not precious with it, so you can see the pages are quite marked up, and that's, to me, a sign of being very well used. And then I have more stickers and other ephemera that I keep in this back pocket. And then in the back here, I have these extra slots, and I keep washi tape samples in here. So these washi tape samples were from Moonlit Journal. And these washi tape samples were from Danielle from my Dandelion Diaries. I wanted to do some more creative memory keeping. that was a little more decorative, but I didn't want to overwhelm myself at the same time because I really admire like the full page a day, 1 day a page type memory type journaling, but I don't think that I would be able to keep up with that. And so I was kind of thinking that doing a weekly type of journaling would be a lot more sustainable for me. And when I was in Japan last year, I just fell so in love with the Traveler's Notebook. I mean, I was already really in love with it, but I just found myself falling in love with it even more, I guess. And I decided to try using the weekly vertical for my memory keeping. So what I love about this is it's full of stamps that I stamped when I was actually in the Kyoto Traveler's Factory. This giant stamp has got to be one of my favorites. I just love how much space it takes, and of course I love the message as well. And then I have some more stamps in here. And I didn't do anything with this page. I don't usually. I know some people will put a little sticker as the months go on, which I think is really cool, but I didn't end up doing anything with it. I also haven't done anything with this page. Yeah, I don't know. If you do memory keeping in this type of layout, I'd be curious to know what you use this for. I have seen that Caitlin Gray will take a highlighter and she'll highlight days that she exercises, which I think is a really good idea. But I'm already tracking my exercise in another book, so if you have any ideas, let me know. So this is the first entry. This is technically 2024. I tried using a few different things. So I remember I went through a few old magazines and I tried to grab some patterns that I really liked because I had thought that I would want to do a little more collaging in here, just because with it being a thinner book, I thought this would be a good place to experiment with collaging. So you can see that there's a lot more stuff going on this page. It's not very text heavy. And also that's because I was on vacation. So I completed this spread when I came home. So it's not like I was doing this while I was away. Yeah, and I remember feeling really overwhelmed with like the blank space and just having no idea where to get started. So it's interesting looking back on this now because I think I eventually figured out I kind of got more comfortable with this as time went on, but I remember feeling really unsure of what to do. So I wrote a little bit about my family trip that we went on. These are pictures from magazines. This is just a sticker from some chocolates that we shared on vacation. And then these are just some stickers that I've received from pen pals. So yeah, that was my very first entry. This entry I did also while I was still on vacation. So you can see I had a lot more time. I put some effort into doing some watercolor. I put a big heading here, and this was very heavily inspired by Georgia journals. I noticed that Georgia would put really big headings in the spread, and I really wanted to experiment with that. I also got a new pen. So this is when I got my Pilot Custom 743 with a Falcon nib. And this was me playing with it, inked with Konpeki. And I spent a lot of time working on these, even though they're pretty simple. So I think I realized if I wanted to do some art in here, that would substantially increase the time it would take to complete the spreads, which isn't a big deal, but it was just something to keep in mind. This was another spread that I spent a lot of time on, and I noticed that I was getting to, like, I really wanted to try to emulate like a newspaper feel. So I experimented with having a big headline, and then I wanted to kind of have columns that were similar to a newspaper. I spent a lot of time drawing out these road trip drawings. This was colored in with watercolor, and then these were some ink samples that I received from Leanne Likes. And then this was some packaging from a FedEx gift that a friend sent me, and she had sent it to me sometime back in November, but it got lost. There was the Canada Post strike, and so I didn't end up getting it for months, and we actually thought it was lost, and they told my friend to apply for a refund, but it made its way, and it was because I guess the barcode got damaged. So over here, I was still playing around with some collaging. This is a really lovely tea that I got from my sister, and I just saved the wrapper so that next time I need to stock up on tea, I would get it. And now I'm looking at this and realizing I still haven't bought this tea, so it's a good reminder. These were some new inks that I got. I love both of these so much. I currently have Suchi inked in my Pilot Custom 823, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And I had Ume Murasaki inked in my Pilot Custom 743 for a very long time. I think I refilled it 3 or 4 times before I finally took a break from it. And then this is just some packaging for this oat and coconut bath salt that I use. It's really soothing for my skin. So, and it's a Canadian company, so I really like to always have a good, healthy stock of this at home. And this is when I started to realize that the like this heading type of layout was preventing me from actually getting started. Like it was, I don't know how to explain it. Like I think I was just overthinking the layout so much, and I was spending so much time trying to figure out to work on the layout that it was taking away from the enjoyment of documenting my memories. So I think I was just so focused on wanting it to look a certain way, but I didn't know how to get to what I wanted it to look like, that I just was being, I guess, too much of a perfectionist about it, and then I wasn't using it. So I started to experiment with using more images to guide my layout. And so here I have an image of me in a new office space that my supervisor is renting for our group practice. Here are some Lunar New Year candies that I like to have around this time of the year. Here are some images of some home updates that we did. I love documenting home updates. So basically we got rid of this rug in our bedroom because I realized that I was struggling a lot with allergies, and we decided that we would remove the rug to see if that would help with my dust allergies. And then the rug that we had in the bedroom, we moved into our living room, and then this rug we decided to pass along. And then here I'm just talking about having dinner with some of my friends. This was a bunch of stamps from a visit to Wonder Pens. So Tiffany from Talksmot and I got together in February, and we discovered that Wonder Pens has a table in the back with a bunch of stamping supplies and a bunch of stationery supplies, and we pulled out our journals and we were able to have a really good time playing with the stamps. We also went to this amazing cafe nearby called Suchi, and it was delicious. The food was really good, the desserts were good, and the drinks were also very good. And I also talked about the fact that it's the year of the snake and that we had a delicious Lunar New Year dinner at my parents'. These are just some more photos of, this is Wonder Pans with their lanterns. I love how that looks. And this was a photo of some of our little journaling session that we had after our visit to Wonder Pens. And then here, I tried to go back to the headline again. So I sort of had the different groups of things that I wanted to talk about. And I talked about work. I talked about getting the Canon selfie QX20. And then I also talked about NaCoWriMo. So this is a really fun spread. I like how this was the last few stamps of the washi tape roll. So I like that I was able to save that because sometimes the washi tape at the end isn't really sticky anymore. This is kind of a chaotic spread. Over here, I talk about receiving Happy Mail from Simona from Simone, and this was just a part of the envelope. And then over here, I talked about other Happy Mail that I received from friends and that it was a busy week. So I was still trying to figure out the spacing, whether I wanted to do 2 lines per space or if I wanted to do 1. And I think ultimately I decided that I preferred being able to fit a little more writing. So that's what was going on here. Yeah, so I remember this was quite a busy week at work. So I remember thinking I didn't really have a lot to report on, but I was able to save some dried plum wrapper, and I was drinking a lot of herbal tonics and herbal teas. I was seeing a traditional Chinese medicine doctor for my skin. So I was boiling these teas every day. So it was my life making these Chinese herbal medicine teas. And I mainly just talked about that this week because it was basically work and it felt like my whole schedule was revolving around making these Chinese herbal medicine teas. I like this page. So over here I talked about this ring that I got. It's actually this ring that's on my finger. So my mother gifted me with the most beautiful opal that she actually got in Hong Kong years ago, but the ring didn't actually fit. And so with her permission, I was able to actually work with a local jeweler to design a new setting for me. And it was just a really fun process. I really enjoyed working with this person. And this is when we went from a sketch to a CAD render. And then I actually went in person to look at the ring cast before she turned it into the actual, before she actually made it. So it's just a really special memory. And I'm happy that I was able to memorialize it on this page. Okay, over here, just some more photos of the office. We had signed the lease and I went in to see it and it just had 1 desk and 1 chair. So I thought that was really cool just to see how it's evolved over time. We also worked on a really major closet update. So I'm really happy that we did that because we were able to turn 1 wall into shelving. So now we have even more storage in the closet. And then here I just talked about a friend date. And this is a wrapper from Choco Soul, which is one of my favorite chocolate shops in Toronto. Okay, over here, I started, so you can see that the the layouts are kind of starting to look very similar, where I've been using my Benu Euphoria with a 1.1 stub to start like a heading. And I had tried originally to think of these as headings. And over time, I've kind of loosened that a little bit. So it's almost like the first few words of a sentence, because I think when I was trying to think of a heading that would encompass everything here, I was starting to overthink it, and it was making me struggle to complete these spreads. And so, yeah, I talked about going to a restaurant with some family. I just talked about different social things this week. And then I talked about getting Kit Kat from Japan. It was a little indulgent, but we ordered some Kit Kat all the way from Japan because we finished our matcha Kit Kat that we had brought home, and we were really craving more. So we decided to try it out to see if it would taste similar, because the green tea Kit Kat in Toronto doesn't taste as good as the matcha Kit Kat that we got actually in Japan. And then this FedEx fraud, we got a $700 charge on our credit card bill from FedEx, and it turned out that somebody had gotten a hold of my FedEx account and somehow managed to charge a bunch of things on it. It was really, FedEx fixed it. They refunded us the money. I'm glad that we were able to fix that really quickly. Here I decided to try out a different color ink instead of black, just to see if I liked that better. But I actually did not. So this is the only spread that has like a different color ink. And this is Lennon Toolbar Sesame Oil, which is a beautiful ink, but it doesn't actually show up that well on this cream paper. Yeah, so we planted some seeds, and you'll see in later spreads I started taking photos of our seeds growing, but this was sort of like day one. I decorated my TN, and then I talked about a new fountain pen that I didn't expect I'd be able to get, but I managed to get at a very good price, so I was very excited about that. Over here, this was more of like a reflection kind of spread, so you'll see there aren't really that many photos, but I'm just talking about how I realized after a really intense work period that I'm actually doing a lot better with some things that I used to feel really anxious about, and I really wanted to have this reminder here that it's really easy sometimes to think that things will never change, or that if you're struggling with something, you might always struggle with it. But I had a really nice reminder that it's not true. And even if the changes are small and gradual, they do happen. And it was really a nice moment to kind of look back and realize that I could see that change in myself. I also got a bunch of happy mail this week, including a really sweet letter from Moonlit Journal, and I took some of the washi tape and stickers that she decorated the envelope with and put them over here. And yeah, I just talked about a few bakeries that we went to on the weekend. Yeah, so I remember feeling really good this week after wrapping up a really intense period. So this spread, it makes me smile because I do remember this was on my mind a lot this week. Spring is here. So I remember just being in awe of walking around in the neighborhood and looking up and seeing the buds on the trees. And even though it happens every year, I just love being able to see those signs. And then I started taking, I added another photo of how our seeds were growing. And I just talked about some runs. I got to see my nephew run his first race, which was really exciting. And all throughout this, I was still struggling with a really bad skin flare-up. And so I just wrote here, I'm still trying to find joy because even though I was having trouble sleeping and I was just really uncomfortable and kind of struggling with dealing with that, I was just trying to remind myself that there was a lot to find joy in. I also started some new medication. And here I was trying poorly to try out different fonts with my stub nib, but I wasn't using anything as a guide, and I think you can tell like it's just really messy and a little bit like all over the place. So I didn't love how that turned out. But here I just talked about how it was a hard week, but my partner got me some beautiful flowers just because, and then I found the most stunning wallpaper off Facebook Marketplace. I've been having so much good luck with Facebook Marketplace lately, and this wallpaper is no exception. I don't have a photo of it because it's still wrapped up, but it's this beautiful William Morris blue wallpaper with birds and pomegranates on it. I think I'm going to put it up in our hallway, but I'm also scared to put it up because if I do a bad job, then I'm worried I'm going to ruin the wallpaper. Yeah, I'm so excited about that. We also added some treads to our stairs because Coconut has been slipping a lot on our stairs. He's getting a little older, and so this is just a reminder of, I guess, time passing and to cherish our moments with Coconut because he won't be around forever. This was a really special moment because I was still not doing great mentally, and my parents surprised me by coming over for dinner, and they cooked and brought it over, and we had a nice family meal, and just moments like that I'm super grateful for. And so these are the kinds of moments that I really want to remember. And then here is just a cafe that we went to, and I really enjoyed their pastries. And I also tried using some of the Traveler's Notebook square stickers, which I forgot that I did, but I actually kind of like how that looks. So maybe I'll have to do that again. Over here, I talked about how the flowers are starting to bloom in our area. So just walking around our neighborhood, it's really nice to see flowers. Another progress photo of our seedlings. This is when Moonlit Journal and I posted our collab videos, and we had a really delicious Easter dinner. And over here, this is just a little painting that I did with some gouache paints. Yeah. This was a very eventful week. So I had more than my usual 4 photos. It was election day. I also wrote my competency exam, and I had this really complicated setup because I wrote it remotely. I also picked up my ring this week, so it was a really nice treat to wrapping up my exams and then going the next day to pick up the ring. I met a friend at Planta, which is this vegan restaurant in Toronto. I also, on the same day, had dinner with my sister at a really delicious Turkish restaurant. And then this same weekend, we had our first barbecue of the year. So I always love barbecue season. I just think vegetables taste better when they're barbecued. So this is always a really exciting time for me. And it was a really nice way to cap off this week because I had been studying most of this week and last week. So it was just really nice to sort of end on such a high note. And I'm using the little Traveler's Notebook icons again. Here, I love how colorful this spread is. I think my spread started to get a little more colorful, and I have Moonlit Journal to thank. She sent me these really colorful Art Studio stickers, and I've just been having a lot of fun splashing them around. This says sushi and tires, and that's sort of the update for this week. So my partner and I went out for like a date night for sushi. This is just a health update where I had a follow-up with my allergist, and we decided that I was going to start doing allergy shots. We also changed our tires, so my family and I will all get together at my parents' house to change our tires. So we'll change my parents' car, my sister and brother-in-law's car, and then ours. So it'll be like this whole day affair. We'll do lunch and we'll take turns changing each other's tires. And this year was special because my nephew is getting old enough to want to help. So this photo obviously is covered up, but this is a photo of him helping, and it's just really cute. And then my niece was babysitting Coconut. These are the kinds of memories that I want to remember, and I'm really having a great time remembering them in this way. This was also a really exciting week because I got my red TN. I also got some Happy Mail. So I had ordered stickers from Dear Whoever, which is Bronte Plans' store. And then I also got stickers from Georgia Journals. And I think their stickers just go so well together. So I had a really nice time choosing some of them for this spread. Here's another progress of our seedlings. So they're growing really well. I had a really fun babysitting night with my niece and nephew. We celebrated Mother's Day and a birthday. And I got some beautiful flowers from my sister. This is where our seedlings start to take a turn for the worse. Basically, it was really cold, and it was a little too cold to plant our seedlings, so they were growing well indoors, but we weren't able to plant them outdoors, and I think they might have they got a little too leggy. I found the most amazing deal on this red toolbox off Facebook Marketplace. I got it for $5 Canadian. And I used this ink sample, Kuretake ink, Meiji no Iro Araisha. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I meant to actually paint in the rest of the hardware, but I forgot. I was really excited about that. And then my partner and I finally started our office makeover, which was a long time coming. And we also built a pergola on our patio because it's too windy, and everything else we've tried, like umbrellas, have always broken. So we're really hoping that this will provide some much needed shade so we can enjoy our patio in the summer. This week, it's pretty picture heavy, but I really wanted to remember the before and after of our office because just doing the paint has really transformed the room so much. So yeah, you can see here, I mean, the photos may not be the best, but we painted the room in Bancha, which is this beautiful olive green matcha color. And the room before, half of it was painted in this dark green called Salamander by Benjamin Moore. And it made the room feel really cool. And the other half was this gray white because I wasn't sure. Once I painted this half, the intention was to paint the whole room, but I didn't know if I wanted the whole room to be this color. And so it just stayed this way for years because painting is so much work, and clearing out a room, like, it's just, I didn't want to do it until I was sure. Finally did it. So met some friends for dinner, and we also hosted my parents for a barbecue. So this was a really fun weekend. It was very full and fun and social. More photos of the office. So this is the other side where we have added shelving to the walls, and the intention here is so that I could use this as a wall bookshelf. I I stained the shelves in early American, and I even painted the door because I really wanted the whole room to be color drenched. So yeah, it was a lot of work, but so worth it. This is also the week that Leanne and I kicked off the Artist's Way. So this is a photo from my first artist date where I went to a park and I did some painting, some watercolor painting. And then later that day I met a friend for brunch. Here I talked about how I'm just seeing flowers everywhere. So again, despite the allergies, it's the best time of the year in terms of flowers. So I just really wanted to remember that. Here's a beautiful sticker from Dear Whoever. And also here, I spent part of my weekend starting to put books on the bookshelves, and I was really happy with the progress. And over here was artist date number 2, where I did some painting. This was a really exciting week. I found out on the Tuesday of this week that the competency exam that I had written a few months ago that I had passed. And then a few days later, I found out from my regulatory college, my hours had been accepted. So I was able to drop my qualifying status. Just a really amazing moment because I have been working towards this since 2021. So between going back to school and then doing practicum and then having to continue to kind of collect the hours in order to drop the qualifying status, I knew it was going to be a long journey, and it just feels so surreal that I'm on the other side of that now. So that's amazing. We also had dinner with some friends this week, and we also hosted my family over for Father's Day. So we did a big barbecue. And then I also did an artist date where I did some more painting. I also had a really lovely catch up with Moonlit Journal this week. I think she was the first person that outside of my family that I was able to tell my news to. And I wrote more about our conversation in my personal journal. But that was a really great conversation. And overall, I would say this was definitely a highlight week for me. So this week I got this beautiful bouquet of flowers from a friend as a congratulations. I went out for dinner with 2 of my old colleagues I worked with each of them on different teams. So they didn't know each other, but now they work together. And they reached out to me when they were in Toronto for an on-site, and we were able to have the most amazing catch-up. So this was such a memorable dinner. Also, my partner and I went out for a lunch date. And then my artist date for week 4 was another painting session with gouache paints. It's also the start of the heat wave. And this is the last week of June, minus the 30th. But I think I'm going to do that in the new insert. And in case you're interested, I just filmed a journal with me as a bonus video for my Patreon Little Coco Companion tier. So if you want some extra content, then that video should be posted before this one goes live. I talked about how our AC broke during a record heat wave in Toronto. I talked about my dream desk that I found on Facebook Marketplace. We had to drive so far to get it. It was so heavy that I could not help my partner move it into our home. I had to call in help. And if you are curious, I've been sharing little clips of me working on this on my Instagram account, which I recently reactivated for the time being. It's a trial, we'll see. But my vision for this desk is that I want it to look like my own stationery store. So I'm gonna attempt to put all my stationery supplies in this desk, and whenever I want to make a change or if I want to shop my stash, basically, I'll be able to access it over here. And it's kind of sitting across from me, so my working desk faces the wall that this is on. So I like that as I'm working, I can just glance over and see this beautiful desk and dream about stationery and hopefully encourage me to continue using what I already have, because I do have a very large stationery stash. So it's going to take me a while because I don't know exactly how I want to display everything. So it's going to be a slow trial and error process, and maybe eventually I'll make a video on YouTube about it. But for now, I'm not really putting too much pressure on myself, and I'm just finding that sharing it over Instagram has been a little bit easier. So if you're curious, I'll be sharing updates on that over there. And down here, it's a little hard to see in this image, but this is all related to my artist date for this week, which was putting together this DIY book nook that I got years ago and never got around to assembling. But I decided for my artist date this week that I was going to crack it open and put it together, and I'm so glad I did because it's very cute. So that's the finished photo, but I'll try to insert a photo onto the screen so you can get a closer look at it. But it was really fun, and it was really nice to just unwind and follow instructions. Sometimes I think that can be really relaxing as well, instead of always trying to create something from scratch. So that concludes my flip through for this insert. That is it. I can't believe it. 6 months of memories in this one book. So let's see. So I'm thinking, for the time being, I'm going to keep this insert here because this being a new insert, it's not going to be too thick, but I think in time, if this starts to chunk up a lot, I might consider removing this insert. But I just want to check when this starts, just to make sure that, yeah. Okay, so the first entry is the 30th, so that's good. So I'm gonna, yeah, so this weekend I'll be filling out this one, and I can't believe it. Second half of the year is all, I can't believe it's already here. So yeah, this is what the cover will look like. And these are all the stamps that I threw in here when I was in the Kyoto Travelers Factory. Another one of those giant stamps that I love. So yeah, that is it. I'd love to know where you were doing your memory keeping in this year, if you are more of a weekly memory keeper or a daily one. I think after this year, I will consider whether I'm ready to graduate to like a 1 page a day, or if I want to stick to this weekly kind of memory keeping. This one definitely feels a lot more sustainable to me, but at the same time, I think there's something about when it comes to the weekly, I usually don't start my weekly memory keeping until the end of the week, because I know I only have so much space, and sometimes there are weeks where there's just so much that I want to remember, but I feel like I have to, narrow it down to just 3 or 4. And then other weeks when there's just not a lot going on, I find that I'm kind of struggling to figure out what to say. So I wonder if I were to do daily style memory keeping, in some ways, I wonder if it would be easier because I would just have more space to dedicate to things. And instead of getting to Sunday and trying to remember the past 7 days, I could, in theory, kind of keep up with it on a more regular basis. But on the other hand, I think the idea of having to do something every day would be really challenging for me. And I think that kind of like I don't want it to be too rigid. So I don't know. I don't need to make any decisions about next year. My plan is to just continue doing what I did for this year, and then I will see how I feel closer to the end of the year. But I'm really happy with how this book has turned out, and I'm looking forward to continuing to do the same thing for the second half of the year. All right. Well, if you're still here, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.